everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to discuss Stagger for the Brewmaster Monk and give the best explanation I can provide for my understanding of it, and hopefully help you better understand how the Stagger mechanic works for Monk and being a tank. And so Stagger is a exclusive mechanic for the Brewmaster Monk, and what it essentially does is it helps offset incoming damage. And to give you a definition of what Stagger is the monk shrugs off attack, delaying a portion of physical damage based on your agility. So Stagger will scale higher with agility, so the more agility you have, the more Stagger value you can get. And then instead you take the damage over 10 seconds. And this affects magical attack at 45%. So to put this in simple terms, for example, if you took let's say 100,000, a hit for 100,000, and we'll just use simple numbers. 58% of that attack, of that 100,000, is going to be staggered. Therefore, that means up front I'm only taking 42%. And so I'll take 42% initially straight up against my health pool. So I'll lose, let's say 45,000 just to make it easy. And then the additional 55,000 is going to be applied to the stagger pool, which will then become a dot, which will go 10 seconds. And so that's essentially how it works. And for every hit you take, that's how it works. Every hit gets split up into that style. A portion gets taken directly, and a portion gets added to the stagger pool. So I'll kind of show you what that looks like real quick. I'm just going to let this boulderfish guy attack me. So you'll see my stagger remaining will climb every time he hits me. And at the dot, so every time he hits me, it resets. And any additional damage, any new damage he's doing to me is being added to that dot. And so you'll see it'll just tick away here, and this is with me doing nothing. I'm not clearing it, it's just ticking away against my damage. And one thing to note, you'll notice that there are different colors for stagger. This showing in green means light stagger. So that means if I were to keep all things the same without clearing it or doing anything, over the course of 10 seconds, this would deal less than 30% of my HP and damage. If that's yellow, it means it'll do anywhere between 30% to 59% of your HP and damage over that 10 seconds. And if it's red, which is heavy stagger, it will do greater than 60% of my health pool and damage. Now, depending on the content you're doing, I strictly do PvP, so I don't ever see my stagger in red. Very rarely do I see it in moderate. I think just for the content, I think it needs to be over a lengthy period of time and taking consistent big damage, like in raids and mythics, which is more common. But in a PvP setting, everything is usually so quick and fast paced, I don't ever really see my stagger meters getting that high. And so stagger is the basic mechanic, but what happens is stagger can be increased by its effectiveness can be increased by something called shuffle. And you passively generate shuffle just by doing a damage rotation. So by using blackout kick, spinning crane kick, and keg smash, you'll get shuffle. So I'll show you what that looks like. And so you'll see this little indicator here, this little green hat looking guy. And so this is a shuffle. So every time you use one of your abilities that grants shuffle, that timer gets higher and higher. So it's important to keep using your main abilities like blackout kick, keg smash, and spinning crane kick, because it's going to grant you shuffle, and it makes your stagger 100% more effective. So right now I have 10 seconds left to shuffle, and look at my stagger. It's 82% effective. So when I lose shuffle, it's going to drop back down to 58, I think it was, without shuffle. Yeah, to 58. And so this is just, it's important to keep using these abilities in your rotation, because you don't want shuffle to fall off, because it's a huge contribution to the damage mitigation in regard to how stagger's working. Because now I'm taking such a small portion of the damage up front, whereas if I was saying 100k, remember earlier I mentioned I was taking 45 up front. Now I'm only taking 20 something k up front, and then the remaining 80k or so is being put into my stagger pool. So it's showing you take much less damage up front by having shuffle active, and it just by doing your rotation. And then the biggest component to clearing your stagger is going to be using purifying brew. And so this will clear 50% of whatever your stagger amount is. It doesn't matter if it's light stagger, moderate, or heavy. It'll immediately clear 50%. And so it's always good to be using Purifying Brew every few seconds, because as a brew, and you getting cooldown reduction toward your brews just from using your abilities, this comes off cooldown very quickly. So you never want to be sitting on 2 charges, unless there's like a super niche scenario where you just, I guess, would need it. I've never come across one. But Purifying Brew is your main stagger clearing ability, and depending on how you spec what talents you pick, you have additional abilities that passively reduce stagger as well. For example, I have Staggering Strike. Every time I blackout kick, my stagger is reduced by almost 27k. Quick Sip, whenever I purify, whenever I get 3 seconds of shuffle, which is using blackout kick and or using keg smash and or doing a complete channel of spinning crane kick, you'll get at least 3 seconds of shuffle. So this is constantly occurring, so it's constantly clearing 5% of my stagger. And there's some other abilities I believe that go into that. But just the most important thing is just remembering to use those abilities, because it gives you shuffle, which makes your stagger that much more effective. And in regards to magic damage, both magic damage and dot damage, I've always wondered how that works. And to the best of my understanding, for example, my stagger is with shuffle is at 82%. And so if you were to do 82% and take 45% of that, that's 36, almost 37%. And so I'm thinking it takes 37% of the magic damage is put into the stagger, and then the remaining 60 something percent is taken up front. And then for dot and bleed damage, I believe it's scaled that way, like per tick, not from the cumulative value, but as the damage comes in. So if it's a warlock dot that hits you for 10k, you'll take 60% of that up front, and the other 30% would be put into the stagger pool. And to the best of my understanding, I believe that's how it works. And so yeah, I hope this helps clear up your understanding with stagger. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to leave the comments below. Or if you understand this better than I do, I'd love to hear your feedback. Please feel free to leave a comment and help out the community to better understand the stagger component and mechanic of Brewmaster Monk. It's a really cool ability. It almost feels like a super overpowered version of Warrior's kind of like Ignore Pain, because you're able to mitigate so much damage up front and then passively ignore it just by using your abilities and clearing it away. So really cool. It does take a little bit of getting used to. So I hope this video helped you out. I hope I'm able to help inspire you to try out Brewmaster. They're very fun and a great, very fun class to learn. And I will see you on the next video.